Cannondale have just launched a brand new version of their much acclaimed Synapse, a bike that helped to break new ground when it was launched way back in 2006. But this new one could well be every bit as important as that very first version. Let me explain. (2006). Phones still look like this. The Pokemon theme music video was the highest viewed video on YouTube with 7 million views. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause. Twitter was launched, Instagram didn't exist, Floyd Landis kind of won the Tour de France, and Tadej Pogacar, meanwhile, was starting elementary school. And at Cannondale, they just launched the Synapse. It's helped to shape what an endurance road bike is. A bike for road riding as opposed to being designed for professional racing. In essence, there's more comfort built into the bike, the handling is a little bit more refined, and the riding position is for an actual human being as opposed to a wannabe racing snake. Now, over the years, that ethos has continued, albeit with the Synapse racking up quite a few race days in the World Tour at the grueling spring classics like Paris-Roubaix. But here we are now, 16 years after Mark 1 with version 5. Cannondale say they have kept everything that is great about the Synapse, but just made every bit of it better. Which sounds simple when you put it like that, but as well as building on all those years of development, they have also been doing a lot of listening, it would seem, to what we want. What particularly sets this bike apart, though, are these. Cannondale is calling it SmartSense. You have, in essence, lights and a radar system that alerts you to traffic approaching from behind that's integrated into the bike. By doing that, you can also then mean that they run off a single battery and they're controlled via a single app. Cannondale realised that many of us are already using some or all of these accessories, and so by building them into the bike, you can make them work better, you can make them neater, and you can also make it more convenient to use as well. Before we get onto SmartSense though, let's take a look at the bike beneath it, because there's some very cool stuff going on there too. Visually, it's changed quite a bit. Those dropped seat stays, which to me, I think make a bike look really aggressive and racy, but more subtly, some of the biggest changes are actually nods to improvements in aerodynamics. Whoa, hang on a minute, don't turn off. This is not just another aero bike, but we are all aware now, I think anyway, of just how important aerodynamics is to our efficiency, whether we're after increasing speed or increasing distance. And that's true no matter what your baseline power value. But importantly, Cannondale say that these aerodynamic tweaks haven't added any weight to the frame set compared to the previous version, which comes in a shade over 900 grams. And it hasn't also affected the compliance of the frame set. In fact, the compliance has increased, Cannondale say, and is now also size specific, so that the amount varies across the frame size spectrum to maintain those riding characteristics. It's called proportional response construction, which kind of sounds a little bit like something that NATO would do. Now, I suspect what might get more of you going than aerodynamics and improved compliance, despite those adding to the ride experience, is actually practicality. Which doesn't sound very sexy, but let's be clear, nothing has been sacrificed on that front either, particularly on this top-of-the-range model with its racy silhouette and the tan wall tyres and the deep section carbon wheels. But when you look closely, you will find a threaded bottom bracket, to which there is a standard chain set attached. Yes, a Shimano chainset on a top-of-the-range Cannondale. And then, when you look closer still, you'll see that the trademark Cannondale skinny seat post has been replaced by a more standard 27.2 diameter round post. And it's attached to the bike with a standard seat clamp, the kind that just works, or is easily replaceable if it ever doesn't. And then, whilst the cables are routed internally through the frame, they're not routed internally through the stem. So you can swap and adjust that to your heart's content. And where it does go into the frame, there's also an internal tube in there to make swapping them out a simple, not time-consuming job. Then there's also discrete fender mounts on there. There's mounts for a top tube bag, and the bike even ships with a through axle that Cannondale say is compatible with indoor trainers. Plus, when you then add in the lights and the radar, what you have here is a very sensible, practical bike, albeit a sexy one. Now, as you know, we don't do reviews here at GCN, we do it with facts, not opinions. However, I would like to try to describe how it feels to ride this bike, because having just said that it's practical and sensible, I would hate for you to think that it's boring, because it is definitely not. Now, the position is slightly more upright than a race bike, but it's definitely not pedestrian by any stretch. As you can see, you can get nice and low if that's your thing. The handling isn't as twitchy as a race bike, but it's more composed, so it holds its line with real confidence, whether that's going straight on or diving through corners. It could be a demon descender in the right hands, and if you want, you can certainly ride it really aggressively. This is not a gravel bike, but it comes with 30mm tyres as standard, and it can officially fit 35mm wide tyres with room to spare. So you could definitely use this for most gravel, I'd say. Let's turn our attention back to the SmartSense hardware now, a system that uses tech to improve rider confidence, but also rider convenience by integrating it and simplifying it. I won't go into too much detail here because we'll have a full video on it on GCN soon, so make sure you check that one out. But in essence, you have a Garmin Varia radar system, so it's already existing proven tech, and it's able to detect vehicles approaching from behind from a distance of up to 140 meters. It then transmits that data to your head unit or a dedicated Varia display, or even the Cannondale SmartSense app. Now, what is going on behind you changes what you can see on the display. So if there's no cars, it will show green. And then when cars start approaching, you will be able to see how many there are, where they are in relation to you, and also how fast they're going. If they're coming up on you really fast, then the display will turn red. The system is designed to give you an awareness of what's going on behind you without turning your attention away from what's going on in front of you. And Cannondale said they initially started trialling it following feedback from their customers that showed that a significant proportion of Cannondale owners were already using Garmin Varia tech. Cannondale say they've designed the components to work together as seamlessly as possible. So cables are very neatly tucked away. It's all powered by one battery pack mounted low on the bike. Everything turns on either with the press of one button, be that on the battery pack or via the Cannondale app, or in fact you can actually turn it on without pressing anything. The built-in front wheel sensor can wake it up, or a proximity indicator on the app. It's all customizable in the app, including the ambient sensing lights, which, like the radar, also come from a respected third-party manufacturer, in this case, Lazine. They are 350 and 85 lumens front and rear respectively. But interestingly, Cannondale have to ship the bikes with two different lighting specifications depending on where they're being sold. So for international markets, the lights can have a blinking function, but for certain markets like Germany, which have much tighter regulations over bike lights, they can't blink, and actually the rear light also has to be made slightly less powerful. As you might expect, the lights also have smart functionality as well. So the blinking patterns change when cars are approaching. At the rear, that's to alert the car driver. At the front, that's to alert you that the car is approaching. And the rear light also functions as a braking light as well. And all of those features can be turned on or turned off or customized using that SmartSense app. The battery lasts an average of 5 hours, Cannondale say, so 2 hours 45 when everything is running full tilt, down to a maximum of 20 hours when it's in power saving mode. It's easily removable to charge, which takes about 3 hours. Basically, it seems to me like Cannondale have tried to make the experience of owning and riding a bike just that little bit simpler and a bit more intuitive. A bit like owning a car now. You don't have to be an enthusiast to get the most out of it. You don't have to spend every weekend tinkering in the garage in order to make it work to its full potential. You just get on it, your lights come on, your radar comes on, and then when you need to charge it up, it's just one power pack. Now, of course, all this SmartSense equipment does add a little bit of weight to the basic bike, but then if you're already running lights and potentially a radar system too, it's not actually adding any weight. But still, it's a confident move from Cannondale in a world that's obsessed with weight, often to its detriment. Now, as you can see, the model I'm riding is the top of the range Dura-Ace Di2 equipped bike, with chain set as well, if you remember, but there are a whole range of models at lower price points too with other group sets. Prices start at $2,400 or £2,400 for the basic model, which actually doesn't come with any of the SmartSense equipment, although it could be fitted afterwards very easily. In Europe, the basic model still comes with the SmartSense lights, and that retails at €3,499. And as I said, there are various models with different aspects of SmartSense, some or all of it. Now, if you want to check that out, of course, just head over to the Cannondale website. I would be very, very interested to know your thoughts on this bike and Cannondale's approach at integrating tech that you potentially already use into the bike when you buy it from the bike shop. So let us know in the comment section down below. Stay tuned to GCN for that other video coming soon about the SmartSense tech, and give it a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed it.